Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Divas That Care. My name is Candace Gish, and I'm the host of this program. Well, I'm so excited that if this is your first time, thank you so much for tuning in. We have a great guest today. We're actually going to be welcoming a brand new diva to our family. She's going to be sharing with you all about a book that she just wrote, and we're really excited to learn all about it. If you've just tuned in for the very first time, you can listen to our shows on Spotify, iTunes, Skechers, and really anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And you can also check out our website at divasthatcare.com and listen to all of our amazing hosts that interview women from around the world. You know, our show is about making the world a better place. So we try to interview as many inspiring women out there and really showcase what they are doing. So I hope that you check us out. As I said, I'm really excited about today's show. I'm going to be introducing to you Sarah Reed. And Sarah, I'm excited to get to know her because she's a writer and a life coach. So Sarah, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to get to know you. Sarah, would you mind spending a couple of minutes kind of introducing yourself to myself and all of our listeners today?
Well, I am a writer and a life coach. Right now I'm in San Antonio. I grew up here in Texas, South Texas. I've written a novel that I'm really excited about and I really love. And other than that, I'm a life coach. I work with women who are in chronic physical pain that want to end their emotional suffering. And I really enjoy all of that work very much.
Well, that's exciting, you know, and it's always great when we get to know and get to basically learn about what women are doing out there. And you are a life coach, and you were mentioning that you work with women in chronic pain. Can you tell me a little bit about that before we dive into your book?
Well, so the thing about physical pain is that it doesn't have to be a cause of suffering in your life. You can have physical pain and you can deal with that, and there's a lot of ways to deal with it without having to suffer emotionally or to think that something is wrong with you or that something has gone wrong in your life. And so as a coach, I help women to see that they can have peace along with their physical pain.
Excellent. And can you tell me why you decided to write a book?
I've always loved reading. I love novels. I love just all books. And I wrote this book. It's been a couple of years now, but this story just came to me, and I just loved it so much. And I really enjoyed writing it, and I think it's just a really fun read. So yeah.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you, will you share us? Tell us a little bit about your book now. I don't know if you can, but we'd love to, listen to what your book's all about. And I don't know if you can read a little bit about your book or read a little bit of your book to us today.
Well, so it's about two sisters. They've been separated for almost a decade. They live right now in opposite sides of the world, and something happens at the beginning that kind of is going to bring them back together. So the book, it alternates between each of their perspectives, and you get to see the journey, the physical and emotional journey that they make back to each other and all the things that they go through on their way back to one another. And it's about, the way that we lie not only to ourselves but to other people, and the way that we feel shame and we try to hide our shame and avoid our fears. And it really does kind of go along with a lot of the things that I coach on, not so much about physical pain, but how, a lot of times we just are telling ourselves these stories that aren't true or aren't serving us, and it ends up affecting us in ways that we don't even realize that we're creating these situations in our lives just because of the stories that we're telling ourselves.
Wow, I love that. And the book is called The Other Gaze. And
yes.
This is absolutely extraordinary. And we've been interviewing a lot of authors in the last little while because, with everything that is going on right now, we're finding that we're at home a lot more. And like myself, I love to read. I think it's one of the things that I binge. A lot of people do binge watching on Netflix and different. Yeah. I love to binge read. So I always say, okay, let's get some of these authors on our program so that we can talk about amazing books that people are writing out there so that we can all go and start doing some binge reading. And I love that it's like that interpersonal relationships that you were mentioning in this. And I love how you kind of incorporated what you're doing professionally into this also.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why I like to write, is because I like to give people a real, like a story, a real world example of what it is that I teach and coach on anyway. I think stories are just such a good way to explain concepts and to teach people things. And when you have a really involved emotional story that can help spread the wisdom that you're trying to share, I think that's just really powerful. So it all ties together.
That is awesome. And you are a best-selling author. And I think that's really cool. To be able to get something like that is extraordinary, and way to go.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting.
So I know that you're at home and you're probably not able to do a lot of things out there in regards to your book, but are you planning on doing a lot of book signings and doing other events out there for our list, like for other people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I mean, right now, there's not a lot of ways to get out and meet people, but I do love that. And I love talking to people who've read the book or who are interested in reading it, because I could just talk about this story all day and these characters. And from what I've heard from people who have read it, they feel the same way. Like they can just sit with these characters forever. And I just love that. I love being able to share that with people.
Are you planning on doing like a follow-up book to this one?
Well, okay, I hadn't originally. I thought this was going to be a one and done story, but from what I'm hearing from a lot of people, they just want to know what happens next. And so I've kind of been toying with the idea of, writing about it, because I do know what happens next. So we'll see. I have a lot of time at home right now, so I might play around with that.
Well, and I was just going to ask you, what are you doing with your time now that you probably aren't working as much as before? Were you planning on doing this writing?
Yeah, I work from home anyway, so it's not that big of a difference, that big of a change for me right now. I still am coaching people and working on my business, but yeah, I do have a lot more time to just kind of sit and daydream about characters and stories. So it might happen that I get going on that. So
awesome. And do you also do some podcasting?
Yeah, so with the coaching practice that I have, we're the pain coaches. That's what we're called. It's me and one of my closest best friends of my whole life. She and I are both life coaches. We both coach people in chronic pain, and we have a podcast called the Pain Coaches Podcast.
Excellent. And what kind of things do you talk about so that our listeners can go and check that out?
Well, so in the last few weeks, we've talked about how other people can't hurt you. And again, when I talk about not hurting you, I mean emotionally. So, even if you are hurt in some way physically, other people, what they say and do can't hurt you emotionally. So we talked about that a couple weeks ago. Last week, we talked about pain and the primitive brain, and how, your pain is your emotional pain is really caused by your primitive brain, the part of your brain that just wants to keep you safe and protected. And so we just talk about different aspects of how pain is influential in your life, whether it's physical or emotional, and how to manage all of that.
Oh, well, I love that. And how can our listeners go and check that out?
So we're on Apple and Spotify. I think we're on all the platforms, the Pain Coaches Podcast. We also have a website, thepaincoaches.com, and we're on Insta and Facebook at The Pain Coaches.
That's excellent. And I know that our listeners are going to want to check that out. I think it's really important to check out all the amazing podcasts right now and the things that are available. I know we all have a little bit extra time that we weren't anticipating here, but you know what? Why not take advantage of it? There's some extraordinary things that people are doing out there, really happy things. Not everything in this world is negative. A lot of people, I think, are feeling a lot of emotional, they feel like they're in an emotional crisis right now, and I can understand that. But what we can do is that we can promote as many positive things out there, and I think that your podcast would really be supporting in all that right now.
Yeah, and the thing about what's going on in the world is that it really is just a circumstance, and we all can make it mean whatever we want. We don't have to make it mean something terrible. I mean, yes, it is a circumstance that's big and that we're all having to deal with in our own ways, but we don't have to feel bad as we deal with it and manage all of the circumstances in our lives.
I love that. That's perfect. Well, I want to ask you, one of the things that we do here on the Divas That Care, there's usually a lot of causes that we talk about, things that are important to us. Is there anything out there that's really important to you that you'd love to share with us today?
Well, I always like to, I know right now we're in this pandemic and there's other things on people's mind, but for me, the Nature Conservancy is always a big thing I like to donate to, because I just think that taking care of the planet is such a vital thing. So I would always encourage people to keep donating to environmental causes right now.
I love that. I've always been a big believer in that also. I want to leave the planet a better place for our children, and I think doing that is really important. One of the things I want to ask you today, too, is there any, Sarah, is there any tips, tools, anything you'd love to share with our listeners to maybe leave them with something positive for the rest of today?
Well, again, I would just say that whatever's going on in the world, whatever is happening outside of you, you don't have to be at the effect of it. Your thoughts are always optional. You can always choose what you want to believe about other people, about yourself, about what's going on. And so why would you choose something negative when something positive could be available? And I'm not saying you don't ever want to feel negative, but if you're kind of spinning in that, or you feel like you're overwhelmed or at the effect of what's going on, I just would offer that you really aren't. Question your thoughts and your beliefs about what's happening. You might find that some of those thoughts aren't true, and if they're not serving you, you can choose to believe and think something that does serve you, and that feels good.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's beautiful. And I want to remind all of our listeners that you can check out and order Sarah's amazing book, The Other Days, on Amazon. They've got, it's right there. You can get it on Kindle, you can get it on paperback, and I think it would be something that you would all love. We love these stories of interpersonal relationships, and I like that kind of a thing to read, especially on a cold day. And I don't know where everybody is in the world that's listening to, but here in Canada, especially in Alberta, we've been dealing with a lot of crazy snow, and it still hasn't melted. So I know that a lot of us are still staying very, very close inside and keeping warm. So it'll be a great book to read for all of you. But you know what, Sarah, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I love that you have wrote this amazing book. I love what you are doing as a life coach. I think it's something that all of our listeners should go check out your website. I'm going to be posting that on our social media, and make sure that you guys can all go check out her podcast. There is 3 episodes currently, and I think that you should go take a listen to them. So again, Sarah, thank you so much for being my guest, and I hope that you come back on again.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I want to a big shout out to all the amazing listeners out there. I do appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in today. I know that you have a lot on your plate, but let's spread the joy and the kindness out there to everyone, and share as many great things out there. We love listening to all of our listeners when they're posting things on our social media, all these words of kindness, it's really appreciated. Thank you. It's because of all of you we've continued to do these for 10 years now. Make sure you check out all of our amazing hosts on the divasthatcare.com. And as I said, if you are listening to us on Spotify or iTunes, make sure that you send it to all of your friends and family. So thank you so much for all of you for tuning in today. Thank you to my amazing guest, Sarah. I hope that each and every one of you has a great day. Stay safe and do something kind for somebody out there. Bye-bye until the next time.